Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the NBA Front Office Show. Happy Friday. We're going to kick off the weekend with a little NBA basketball. We'll talk about some news, some rumors going on around the NBA about some potential moves and things of that nature. Maybe a certain player that Keith really likes returning to action. We'll talk about that too. But first, let's talk a little bit about the games that we saw last night. And I guess we need to start with the Memphis Grizzlies. What a ridiculous comeback against the Minnesota Timberwolves right when the Wolves were feeling strong. Nope, here come the Grizzlies roaring back. Keith, the Grizzlies are now up 2-1, and for most of that game, at least the first half of that game, it looked like the Wolves were the better team, and then suddenly the Grizzlies kept chipping away, and what an epic fourth quarter collapse by the Wolves.
Trevor, I tweeted Wolves, huh?
Yeah,
And then
I saw that.
like it felt like a half hour later, I was like, or not. Yeah,
37 to 12 was
unbelievable.
the fourth quarter score, by the way. 37 to 12. Good Lord.
Yeah, I want to say there was like a 48-13, like at some point run by Memphis. Yeah, I had turned my focus to the Dallas game
Mm-hmm.
for the most part, and I still had that one on just because you never know. But man, that's bad for the Wolves.
Mm-hmm.
And now you got to be because you got drilled in game two, and then this happens. Your confidence is probably pretty shaken. So I'm nervous for them. We'll see what happens here in game four. Clearly, if they don't get game four, this thing's over in five. Memphis is not gonna. If they go home up 3-1, they're not going back to
Mm-hmm.
Minnesota. I would be shocked. So yeah, I really, it's stunning. I mean, there's just no other way to put it. I mean, it wasn't even like one of these things where one guy got hot and threw in a million three-pointers, or it was just we're just going to run it down your throat, play after play after play. And Minnesota was kind of like, we can't stop this and
Mm-hmm.
we don't know what to do. And it was just bad. I mean, if you're Taylor Jenkins and the Grizzlies today, you probably woke up feeling really good about yourselves.
Oh yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, that kind of a comeback win. I mean, look, Minnesota put up 12 points in the fourth quarter, but they also only put up 12 points in the second quarter as well.
Yeah.
So they went through these scoring struggles. Karl Anthony
Well,
Towns
yeah,
only
they had
8 points.
they had a big lead early,
Mm-hmm.
and then they let the Grizzlies back in, and then it looked like it was one of those. All right, Memphis isn't going to have enough to finish this off
Yep.
because Minnesota pushed the lead all the way back up. I want to say it was like 26 or something, and then this massive comeback. So and you're right with Towns. And then after the game, Towns was like I'm working. I don't know how to get open. And he
Mm-hmm.
didn't say I don't know how to get open, but it was like I can't get good looks. They're defending like you got to figure this out. And if not you, then the coaching staff,
Yep.
you got to figure out a way to get your guy touches. And I'm not picking on you here because he was super close for me, but you picked him for all NBA, and there's a good chance he makes all NBA.
He
You're
didn't
an
look
all
like it.
NBA center.
No.
Figure it out, man. Like figure it out. This you cannot be going through games. With half the game, you're only noticing that you're out there because of dumb fouls or bad defense. Like that can't be.
And then you saw John Morant took to Twitter to retweet the video clip
Minnesota. Yeah.
of Karl Anthony Towns saying we're in Minnesota now or whatever, and John put that out there. It said something to the effect of, "Yeah, we are in Minnesota now," and they came
I
out there and got the win. By the way, I thought.
I didn't see anything. Sorry,
Go ahead.
they're John Morant and Karl Anthony Towns' dads have been going back and
Yep.
forth in the arenas throughout the series, and they apparently sat
Yeah,
together.
they did.
I did not see anything, but I can only imagine Mr. Towns must have been really hammering on Mr. Morant for a while there, and
And then
then
it
that's
swung
one of
the other
those
way.
ones where it's you're like trying to find a place to hide by the end.
You know, John Morant, let's talk about this real quick. John Morant, triple double, 16 points, 10 boards, 10 assists. I didn't think he was actually all that good in this game. Efficiency,
No.
5 for 18 shooting, 1 of 6
Hmm.
from three. I'm sorry, 1 of 3 from three, but then 7 turnovers as well for Ja. It was a team high plus 20, but I thought that there was a fairly sloppy performance for Ja
Yeah.
Morant, and yet the Grizzlies were able to come back and win anyway. Like that, to me, that stood out. Like this team
Yeah.
didn't need John Morant to be at his best, and they still pulled off this kind of epic comeback. That makes it that much more impressive.
I always say about a big comeback, things don't go you don't have big comebacks if things haven't gone sideways at some point earlier in the game, right? You
Mm-hmm.
had to be pretty bad for another team to build a lead that big. It is exceedingly rare for it to be one of those games where the team comes out and they hit, 15 3-pointers, and that's why they're up by 25. It's usually you did something pretty poor to put yourself in that kind of hole. And the Grizzlies were bad, and Morant was bad for most of the game. I have no problem saying that. They were awful, but you know what? It didn't matter because they were great in the fourth quarter when it did matter. And that's, and that's it.
Jumping over to the Mavs, like you mentioned, you turned your attention to this game, as did I. The Mavs and the Jazz. The Mavs get a win again. Now they're up 2-1 without Luka, and he should be back next game. So 126 to 118.
Well, we just got news on that. Sorry to interrupt.
Okay. What do we get?
His status remains unofficially unchanged.
Okay.
Which is what that means. But Jason Kidd says he is a game time decision. So,
okay. I mean,
but that's
if he's here's the just peeling it back here. If he's 100%, he's bouncing around and saying, I'm good to go. If I'm the Mavs, I'm saying he's a game time decision.
And it sounded like they had to hold him out of game 3 by all accounts. It sounds like he was ready to go. But yeah, I mean, I said it. Utah needed to get both of those games without him, and they really needed this one. They're done. It's done.
It's weird.
I don't even
weird
care
to say that for a 2-1 series, but that is how it feels.
Yep, a 2-1 series where they're still at home, right? But it's they now gave home court back to Dallas. Shout out to the Jazz fans because they were really good early until the team completely took the life out of them. I don't know if Donovan Mitchell is just done with these guys, done with this particular iteration of this team. He has been awful in this series, and don't throw at me that he scored
32 points, 6 assists. The stat line doesn't look terrible. 1 of 8 from
what did he shoot though last night?
He was 10 for 21 shooting, but 1 of 8 from 3, 6 assists, 32 points. I mean, the stat line is not bad, right? But watching the game in the stat line is something different.
And now look at his defense. Flip over to that. If there was a way to easily look at bad defensive stats, because he'd be leading the series in all of them. He's been awful. I mean, it's Matador defense after Matador defense from him. And I'm not going to put it all on him because Mike Conley hasn't been very good. Royce O'Neal looks like he's in over his head as they're asking him to guard Brunson and Dinwiddie and a bunch of guys. And then Rudy Gobert, I realized this game he did kind of get played off the floor. They went to that small ball lineup, which kind of worked okay, but it only worked until Dallas figured it out, and then even that wasn't working. It's just that team. I'm going to repeat it, until it happens. Danny Ainge did not draft, sign, or trade for the vast majority of these players. Major changes coming to the Jazz. They're just done. They don't, maybe they extend this to 6 or 7 or what in this series.
Yep, I agree. The Golden State Warriors are really, really good. They're now up 3-0 on the Denver Nuggets. Steph Curry still coming off the bench. Doesn't matter. He still comes out. He comes off the bench and drops 20. I mean, he plays 31 minutes. So yes, he's coming off the bench, but still 27 points, 6 assists. But Jordan Poole really kind of stole the show. So did Klay Thompson. But Jordan Poole was particularly impressive. 9 for 13 shooting for him. 3 boards, 3 assists, 27 points. Klay Thompson, 26 points. Draymond Green doing Draymond Green things on the defensive end of the floor with 5 fouls, picks Nikola Jokic to the most likely MVP Nikola Jokic. And Draymond Green picks him to seal the win. The Warriors are rolling right now. The favorites to win the whole thing.
Too. For Draymond, the Warriors have bumped up to that favorite line. I don't know that I necessarily agree with that. I think that's a little bit of an overreaction on the Suns' part, but shout out to official guy of the NBA front office show, Jordan Poole, and I appreciate him coming through because I just had a piece post on Spot Track today about Jordan Poole's next contract options because it was funny. He has been on Spot Track the most searched player over the last week or so. I think people who are tuning in for the first time are like, "What's the deal with this guy?" Trying to figure out what his contract is. I did tweet because I watched the vast majority of the second half of this game this morning. I was really tired after a long day yesterday, but watching it this morning, it just struck me. Imagine just being able to go to your bench and it's Steph Curry is the guy you bring in. That's just insane, right? And whether that sticks or doesn't stick or whatever, and I get it where people are like, hey, we don't have to name every lineup, but that Green, Wiggins, Thompson, Poole, Curry lineup, oh boy, it's man, that's tough. When Andrew Wiggins is your clearly your fifth best guy in a lineup, you're probably really good. Like that's just the reality of it. Like and then Otto Porter is playing pretty well. Gary Payton playing terrific. And I don't want it to be lost. Denver did not play bad
No.
in this game. They were actually pretty good too. They shot 50% from the field. They just couldn't get enough stops in the end on the Warriors. Jokic was great. This was the MVP kind of performance out of him. They just don't have enough. It's this is we said how often do we say it this year? At some point, they're really going to miss Murray and Porter,
And
and
this is it.
we're there. We're at that point now.
Yeah, I mean, Denver did. I guess that's why people are now making the Warriors the favorite, because Denver didn't play poorly. You got an MVP performance out of Jokic, and it still wasn't enough.
Yep.
That's what people are looking at with this Golden State team. I agree, though. I'm not
Yeah.
counting out the Phoenix Suns. I'm certainly not counting out
No.
your
Yeah.
Celtics, any of these other teams. But the Warriors right now are the betting favorite. Jordan Poole, team option next year, 3.9 million.
No. Already picked up.
Already picked up. Yeah. So
Remember that's the fourth
so that's
year.
good. But so that's, and then after that, I mean, we'll see what next year looks like. But Jalen Brunson has made himself a lot of money in this year's playoffs. Jordan Poole is trending in that direction as well. Now, again, he's
Yep.
got another year under contract, but
Yeah.
this is a
He's extension eligible though, coming off the rookie scale, so he's within there with like Tyler Hero and all those other guys, with that one. So yeah, that's yeah,
22 years
that's
old, and he's making the kind of
mhm,
plays that he's making right now in the playoffs. I mean,
big
absolutely,
time.
absolutely incredible.
Yep. Yeah, he's my get. I wrote this today. I won't step all over the piece. Warriors are going to extend him to
Hmm.
something, and they'll just deal with whatever the fallout is from that. Maybe it ends up costing him Wiggins when his contract expires in a couple seasons for the 23-24 season as Poole's extension is kicking in. But I mean, you win another title. I don't know. I don't know how far they can go into the luxury tax. It's already pretty far. If so, I don't think you know this. Maybe you've seen it. Do you know how much luxury tax, like tax plus penalties, they're paying this season?
Oh, it's more than the salary cap for most for like it's more than most teams'
Oh,
payroll.
it's more. Oh,
It's way
yeah.
more. It's I want to say it's something like 150 million. It's something crazy.
You're a little shy. 170
I
plus.
knew it was up there.
Yeah. And so combine that with total salaries, 340 plus $1 million. Like that's
Well,
a
you'd better be.
over a
You'd better be a
third
champion
of a
then if
billion.
you're going to be paying that much money, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah, a third of $1 billion for one season. Yeah, it's crazy. We're going to get into reasons why teams may be willing to spend a little bit more in a couple
That's
minutes
coming.
here, but
Yep.
but yeah. All right, let's keep plugging
All
along.
right, your big news of the day for the Boston Celtics, Robert Williams now may be available for this next game coming up, game 3 with the Nets in Brooklyn. Did travel with the team, and now there is some optimism that he might be willing to come back. We saw what yesterday, I think it was, maybe day before, you would know that he was playing 3-on-3. So that
Yep.
lets you know that hey, he's pretty darn close to coming back. What do you think? How do you feel about this? You're coming at it from the Celtics perspective. Are you concerned that they're rushing him too quickly, or do you think this is just fantastic news? And if they're putting him on the floor, you just trust that he's fully ready to go.
Yeah, this seems to be it. You know how it goes. A guy gets an injury, and then you read a million things about
Yeah.
it, and you feel like I could be a doctor. This isn't that hard, right? Like, I read
I
some
could play
articles.
one on TV.
Yeah, right. It seems to be an injury where once you're ready, you're ready. There's not a huge there's no more injury risk than there always
Hmm.
is. Especially with the procedure that he had, where he had the trim, he did not have the full deal. So it sounds like this is one where as soon as he's ready to go, he's ready to go. And they have been saying since the day after surgery, he was already back in the gym doing 2-a-day workouts. Now, 2-a-day workouts might mean he stretches for an
Sure. Yeah.
hour, in those early days, but they've been saying sometimes guys come back early. They always added that almost every single time. And we've been doing this long enough to know coaches are more likely to be like, nah, I don't think
Yep.
he's going to play. I don't think he's going to play than they are to ever even give a hint that somebody may come back early. Brad Stevens did the same thing. And again, yeah, he's running the front office now, but he's a coach, right? It still has a lot of coach in him. And he did the same thing. I'm like, yeah, maybe he gets back early. Then when it was, we found out he's playing 3-on-3. Then the next day it was, yeah, he's playing 4-on-4. He's taking contact. It was like, all right, this is getting close. Then when it flipped over to, um, he's traveling with the team. Yeah, Boston to Brooklyn's about as short a trip as you can get in the league. That's an actual trip. That still was, normally you just leave them home and say, just keep rehabbing, keep
Right.
rehabbing. We'll see you in game 5, maybe for game 5, back in Boston. And so I'm 100% there. If they, as long as they think he's ready, yeah, get him out there. I don't know that it'll be game 3, but maybe it is. I mean, I don't know. It would be absolutely bonkers if he played before Ben Simmons
Right. And
did
that
in
could
this
happen now
series
because
like
we know
that.
Simmons isn't
Right?
until game 4.
Yeah, he came out and said today, yeah, I don't think, I'll play in game 3. So I don't know. I really don't know. This might be one where on both guys, let's see how game 3 goes. And then maybe we'll make a decision on game 4
Mhm.
after that. But I mean, at the very least, I would expect at the very least we'll see Robert Williams in game 5, assuming that there is one in the
Yeah.
series.
Yep. Does seem like that's the way
Hey,
it's
I want
trending.
to address one quick thing on Celtics
Yeah.
Nets. This was a comment on our last video where the guy was like, I think it's making a bad assumption that if Boston goes up 3-0 that the Nets will lose the series. And then maybe the Celtics lose a player, blah, blah, blah. No one in NBA history has ever come back from down 3-0
Yeah.
in a series.
So
I
that's
don't, I
not a hot
mean,
take or anything like
yeah.
that.
Like I don't like I wasn't trying to be crazy there or being a homer or anything. Like it's anybody who's I also don't think the Sixers are gonna lose now up 3-0 on the Raptors. Like just the Warriors aren't either. Like that's not it was just a little bit of a weird comment to me. So just wanted to address it here on the
Yeah,
show
no.
as well.
It's not like that's a it's not like they're down 2-1 and you're saying, "Oh, the Celtics
Yeah.
are winning this series,
Yeah.
in 6 or whatever." Like
Yeah.
that.
You're not if the Celtics win game 3, it's over. The series is over. Maybe not over in 4, but it's
Yeah.
over.
Yep.
Like, yeah.
All right. We did see a coach get let go today. Maybe a little bit of a surprise. This is so it's Charlotte Hornets, James Borrego. I haven't seen any Hornets fans who have been upset about this or surprised, but the national response has been largely surprised that this took place because I think a lot of people look at what happened with the Hornets and they don't say, "Oh, clearly this is a coaching issue." But
Mhm.
obviously, the Hornets feel like they can find somebody better suited to take this team to the next level. So James Borrego is let go by Charlotte.
Yeah, I'm not saying it was the wrong move by the Hornets to let him
Yeah,
go. I just also don't think he's the actual
right.
problem in Charlotte. They've got roster construction problems. I think they've got a lot of things that are issues. So I'm not going to pin it all on James Borrego. I think perhaps you have some experience with this. I think when people don't know what else to point to, they point to the coach
Yep.
stinks. And that's it. That's the solve. That's what we need to get everything back on track and get everything where it needs to be. And that's just not the way it is always, right? It's not again, or sometimes is that part of it? Sure.
Hmm.
I completely think that maybe it was time to make a change. But I don't think someone's coming in there. You could get prime Red Auerbach or Phil Jackson or Pat Riley. And I don't think they're all of a sudden this team is a title contender next year just because they're on the sidelines. They need roster work. They need a lot of other stuff. So that's part where I'm just like, it wasn't that I said it's a bad idea to fire him. I just don't think he's the problem.
I wonder if that's just it. Is that they've got somebody in mind that they feel like will be a better fit for the future in
It
terms
could
of
be.
bringing in other players and things of that nature. That's possible. He may not be the entire problem, but do you improve by doing this? I think that's ultimately what the question is, and maybe the answer is yes. Maybe
Sure.
they find
Yeah.
somebody who works out better for them. But again, I don't think this is. It's. I mean, like you alluded to, Frank Vogel with the Lakers. This doesn't suddenly solve everything for the Hornets,
Hmm.
but maybe it's just a step that they felt that they needed to make. I do think that the
Yeah.
coach getting rid of a coach is usually the easiest move, and so that's why you see this
Yep.
happen so much. It's also something that most people will look at and will notice, right? Because they'll see, wait, these 5 guys are on the floor. Well, I don't like that guy. I like that guy. Clearly, the coach made the wrong decision. So it's something
Yeah.
that's very public facing and very easy to kind of nitpick and put on the coach. The coach just tends to get blamed anytime a team is not playing well.
Yep.
That's across a lot of sports. But Yeah, we'll see where the Hornets go from here. It'll be interesting to see who they ultimately target with this now open position, but it's another team that's going to be looking for a head coach this summer.
Yeah, 3
Mhm.
now. The Hornets, the Kings, and some other team. I don't know who the
Yeah,
other one
somebody.
is. They're looking to. In reality, this should you don't rush into hiring a
Hmm.
coach, but it does put a little bit of pressure because you're going to start hearing the same names on all 3 places because that's just how the process
Yep.
works. So you really start looking at it of all right, we maybe want to get moving a little bit here, and not necessarily wait for the absolute perfect pie in the sky candidate to come available that maybe will or won't. Like if it like right, we heard about Nick
Yeah.
Nurse with the Lakers, like, and I'm not saying the Lakers are doing this, but I wouldn't pin my hopes on Nick Nurse becoming available and miss out on another, perfectly good option because I was hoping that that may be how that goes. It's just in when you're the only job open, sure. And I'm not even going to try to be funny and jokey about it. Clearly, the Lakers are the best job of these 3 that are open, even with problems that they
Hmm.
may have. It's still the Lakers. It's still LeBron. It's still AD. But you now have competition for
Yeah.
guys. With other places, and that you didn't have that prior.
Yep. So that's something to factor in for all three of these teams, for the Hornets, the Kings, and the Lakers. In addition to anybody else, I mean, who knows if any of these other jobs may come open? I don't foresee any on the horizon here, but it's certainly possible as we get
Oh,
closer.
I foresee one. I think Utah might
Okay.
be headed
Yes,
that
yes.
direction, but that's
I already have them in my head as like as though they've already made this move, because I was instantly going
sure,
to, does Philly move Doc Rivers? That's what I've
sure.
almost gotten to the point where I'm just accepting that that the Jazz are going to make that move. But
Yeah. And I don't mean to laugh because it
sure.
sucks when people get fired, but that was more just I think we
Yeah,
might have
right, right,
another
right.
one.
Yeah, that I was
So
saying that there
yeah,
wasn't anybody else on the horizon when I
yeah,
it's like I'm
yeah.
just assuming that's the way this is going with the Jazz at this point.
Sure.
Um
No, we're there.
All right, let's move on. Let's talk a little bit about, well, Damian Lillard. This came out. Damian Lillard is pushing for a two-way wing with size. And then Keith, you and I were laughing about this before we came on
The
because
list.
the list was, what was it? It was Jeremy Grant, Ben Simmons,
Yep.
Jaylen Brown. There was another, who was the other one?
And Aaron
Okay,
Gordon.
and Aaron Gordon. I'm like, one of those guys is available, so Damian Lillard wants Jeremy Grant. And we've already
Yeah.
heard the Blazers connected with Jeremy Grant. They were connected to Jeremy Grant at the trade deadline. They've been rumored to be a team to watch to land him this summer. They got stuff at the trade deadline that maybe they can flip and try to get Jeremy Grant from the Pistons. It that just I don't know why you even list the other names, because they're not available. Jeremy Grant is. Clearly
Yeah.
the Blazers are going to go after Jeremy Grant this summer. Do they land him? We'll see, but it's going to be a thing.
Yeah, I mean, why not throw LeBron
LeBron,
on the list and
Jason
I don't know. We don't have
Tatum. Let's
enough
throw
time
in
to go through.
anybody else. Jimmy
Yeah.
Butler. They're
Yeah.
interested in, like,
Yeah.
there's.
Jason
Yep.
Tatum, yeah, any two-way wing with
Yep.
size. Like, yeah. Um, it's the right path to if your intention is we're gonna flip this quickly and we're gonna try to get back to being a playoff team right away. That's the right path. You need to put defense around Damian Lillard and ideally defense with size because Lillard's already got he's not tiny by any means, but he's a
Mhm.
smaller guard who has one of your starting spots locked in. It is interesting. Jake Fisher, Bleacher Report, noted Blazers, not getting that pick from the Pelicans because the Pelicans jumped into the
Mhm.
playoffs and now that pick goes to the Hornets. That took a hit because that's just one less thing they can offer in trade because the Pistons, it was well reported, the Bulls made a run at Jeremy Grant and the Pistons wanted 2 first-round picks or a first rounder and Patrick Williams. And that's because the Bulls owe obligations to the Magic and the Trailblazers. Or I'm sorry, maybe it's just the I can't remember which way that one went, but maybe it's just the Magic. But anyway, the Bulls had obligations out down the line. It's hard for them to give up 2 first rounders and one of their best young
Mhm.
players. So it becomes a little tricky there. But yeah, I mean, I if I was gonna bet on Jeremy Grant going anywhere, I would still bet the field because that's just how this
Yeah.
works in the NBA. But then if I was picking a specific team, I would pick Portland. I just think there's too much there
Too much smoke.
that's been connected. Yep.
Agreed. And look, every team in the NBA wants 3-and-D wing defenders with size that are super switchy.
Yep.
Every team wants Jeremy Grant's skill set. So he's going to be in high demand. A lot of teams are going to check in on it. I mean, what if when
Oh,
we kept
absolutely.
track, I want to say it was like we were well into double digits in terms of teams that were linked
Oh,
to Jeremy
yeah.
Grant in terms of the trade market.
Ahead of the trade
Yeah,
deadline.
at the
Yeah.
trade deadline. So
Yep.
it's going
Yep.
to be a lot again that'll be interested in him. But again, I think the Blazers have been the
Yep.
team we've most consistently heard as this team really wants to go land him. So we'll see what ultimately happens there if they can get the deal done. I do wonder. You are getting back into with Anthony Simons, you're getting back into the situation with CJ McCollum where you've got two sort of, I don't want to say undersized, but you don't have a big two guard essentially when you're running Anthony Simons and Damian Lillard.
Into offense first,
Right, two
guys.
offense first guys, not a lot of size there. So it becomes that much more important that if you're going to run him, whether you run him at the 3 or the 4, that you need somebody with size, with versatility on the defensive end of the floor.
Yeah.
I do wonder with the word out there that Jeremy Grant doesn't want to take a backseat offensively. Can you sell him as you're the second option and Anthony Simons is the third option? And is that the truth if they wind up together? I don't know. Anthony Simons was really really good for the Blazers this season, particularly when Lillard went out. I don't know if Jeremy Grant would just by default be the second option.
Yeah, I don't either. I'm not entirely sure. Yeah, and that also becomes a whole thing of he also wants
Yep.
paid, and he wants paid like he's a number one or 1A kind of guy. So yeah, that I like Jeremy Grant a lot. If he's maybe my third, if my first two are really good, ideally my fourth best player. He hasn't scaled well with the counting numbers
Mm-hmm.
look great, but his efficiency is really tanked. It doesn't look really good. But yeah, I mean, if you're kind of if he's your third guy and it's Lillard and Simons and you got enough depth, yeah, maybe that works. You get him involved enough that he feels like he's doing some stuff because he's too good to be relegated to just hey go
Yes.
stand in the corner and ball will come your way every fifth play or something. But yeah, it's that part's a little
It
tricky.
reminds me a little bit of Trevor Ariza when he left in '09 when he went to the Rockets. I think it was '09
Mm-hmm.
when he went to the Rockets and he suddenly had this bigger role of kind of being the guy for them. And he put up some numbers, but you could tell it was probably a little bit too much. But then again, he's too good to be kind of your
Yeah.
fourth guy or whatever on your roster.
Yep.
All
Yep.
right, let's move
Agreed.
on. Let's go Clippers and Heat. Both, and this is something we've heard consistently as well, are interested in John Wall if he gets bought out. And
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a pretty big if John Wall does get bought out
Yeah.
again, $47 million for next season. But
More likely now than it was
sure,
last
more
year.
likely now than it was before. But Clippers and Heat, both those landing spots make perfect sense to me in terms of why they would be interested, why they would go after him. But
Mm-hmm.
again, if you're the Houston Rockets, option one is going to be can we find a trade for John Wall? And then if you can't, then you start to go down the buyout path. So we're going to see if John Wall is a Houston Rocket past the 23rd of June, then a buyout suddenly becomes a lot more possible. But
Mm-hmm.
I think the Clippers and Heat won't be the only teams interested if John Wall is suddenly a free agent.
Yeah, there's definitely somebody will take a shot, especially if he's willing to come in for 5, 6, 7 million
Yep.
dollars. Something that's maybe in range or just above the taxpayer mid-level amount. Then I think that becomes a very wide open market for a guy like him. And the Heat have done well with guys like that. They looks like we'll see with Victor Oladipo if where that goes with them. But they've obviously done a good job getting guys going in. The Clippers, I think it was Marcus Morris said after their post their playing
Mhm.
loss of hey, we need a backup point guard
He did.
behind Reggie Jackson, and that might have been hinting a little bit, right? Because their options going into next season are it's really Jason Preston, who missed his entire rookie year with an injury. So and then I mean they've got clearly other ball handlers like Norman Powell and Kawhi Leonard and Paul George and guys like that. But you do need somebody else who's maybe a pure point guard. I mean, if you're the Clippers, you're looking to load up the last few roster spots to make this title run next year with a bunch of healthy guys. So yeah, I do think that's that one would make some sense
Yeah.
for sure.
Yep. Agreed. So we'll see if John Wall does indeed get bought
Yep.
out. I think there'll be plenty of suitors for his
I
service.
think he's going
You think
to.
so?
I yeah, I think now where
But Keith, the
he's not going to
Rockets
want to miss a
said
whole
that there's
another year.
interest in a trade for him.
Yeah. I have a bridge I'd like to sell you in Brooklyn in a tower in Paris, France. if you're interested. Just let me know. Hit me up in the comments.
Come on, front runners, hit up Keith, and we'll work a deal here.
Yeah.
Let's finish with this. The NBA has prospective expansion investors already all lined
Oh, it's
up.
coming,
It's gonna
baby.
happen, and now we're starting to hear with
Yeah.
more. I don't want to say certainty because it's not done until it's done, but it's feeling more and more
Sure.
like Las Vegas and Seattle are the clear front runners here. They're the ones that's
Yeah.
what it's most likely going to wind up being for NBA expansion. It's a matter of when it happens, not so much if it happens. My sense of it anyway. And broadcast rights deals are coming up. They're going to be a new agreement with the NBA the next few years here, and this shocked me. Projections are that NBA franchises could double in value when that happens. I mean, that's unbelievable. We've already seen franchise
Yeah.
values go through the roof. So if you're the NBA and you've got that coming, and you've got two new teams coming on board, you can ask for a pretty hefty price tag for an expansion team. So the amount of money that can be injected into the NBA, into the owners' pockets, can definitely help make
Yep.
up for some of the losses during COVID. If they do go ahead with this expansion plan, which is part of why this makes so much sense for them to do. But my goodness, if franchise valuations double, I mean, this maybe that's where the Golden State Warriors are like, we got to pay 300
Yeah.
million or whatever. Okay,
That's
we're good.
exactly what I was
We're good.
hinting at earlier. Yep. Yep. That's exactly it. That's exactly where it's going. I mean, the Warriors are saying could be worth $10
My
billion
goodness.
dollars after this comes in. And so here's what the reality is, right? The NBA, with clearly they're getting the data from their TV partners, and their TV partners were not countering any of the things that were shared, basically pushed, hey, we just had amazing
Mhm.
ratings. And these are not just amazing ratings related to the bubble season and all that stuff when games were being played at 1:30 in the afternoon on a
Yeah.
Tuesday. These are like we're going back, a half a decade or more now. And I think what is true from everything I've read is the NBA knows they're going to get paid massive amounts of money for their TV rights deal because the one thing that continues to hold value television wise is live sports. Everybody wants
Yep.
live sports rights one way or another, whether it's the traditional ESPN, TNT, ABC model, or whether it's Amazon gets involved, Apple gets involved. We've seen that with Major League Baseball. They're doing some stuff, and with the NFL, clearly, they're going to get a lot of money here. The NBA is they're going to make a ton of money off the TV contracts, and then beyond that, you're going to end up with, if you get two more teams in, that's money flowing in, two more markets, two more
Mhm.
local television contracts. I mean, in the NBA of all the sports has embraced the idea of social media and streaming
Yep.
the best of all of them. Now, the League Pass product needs some work, but
It's
I
it's
think
it's
that'll
gotten a
be
bit better.
it's gotten
It's still
better.
not
And I
MLB to
think,
me has been the gold
oh,
standard.
easily. Yeah, not
Yeah.
even close. I've never had a single issue with the MLB streaming product.
Which is
But I
amazing
think,
because they've got 160 some odd games a year. Like
yeah,
that's a
yeah,
lot of baseball
it's crazy,
to
right?
be able to watch on that product, and so yeah, that's one
I
thing that MLB is doing very well.
my guess is the NBA will make some whoever it is pays into this. Hey, help us improve
Yeah.
League Pass. Whoever it is, hey, Amazon, if you want to air a game a week, like we need some help with, oh, and you happen to be great at that. Perfect. Help fix
Right.
League Pass. But expansion's coming. The league is healthy. Everything is in really good shape for the league. It's just a matter of time. Henry Abbott of True, who wrote the most recent long expansion piece, did a lot of really good reporting and research into it, talking to folks in Seattle, folks in Las Vegas. Really, none of them are openly saying, "Yeah, we've been told we have a team," but these people aren't stupid. They're not building arenas and making all these plans for no
Right.
reason. They clearly feel pretty good about this. Again, not in the next. I believe within 2 to 3 years we will be told we're getting expansion, and somewhere within the 3 to 5 year window we will have two new expansion teams. With that, and I also appreciated Henry put in there talking to folks around the NBA. There's enough buy-in now that, yeah, we're deep enough in
Mhm.
talent that we can pull this off. And one of the things they called out, almost half the league now or they're really getting approaching 50% of the league being
Yep.
international players. So now it's your talent pool. I
Look
mean,
at
even
look at
back
the
when the
MVP award.
Bobcats came in.
I mean,
Yeah,
your
exactly.
top what
Yep. Yeah.
four?
I mean, the All NBA team's going to be
Yep.
half, non-US born players. Um, but when the Bobcats came in, but even before them, when the Raptors and Grizzlies, we were still a very US centric league and hadn't dipped into the market, internationally for players. And now that's where it's headed. So I think this is all, great stuff and leading towards where we're getting two new teams. And it also, it sounds like Seattle and Las Vegas are going to have to either blow this or decide they don't want to do it if it's not those two markets, because you continually hear those two mentioned, and then you'll get a occasional third or fourth city thrown in there once in a while, but that one rotates. It's the Seattle and Vegas are always at the top
Yeah,
of
and
the
Seattle
list.
would have to do something incredibly stupid, like I don't know, not hand the ball to Marshawn Lynch and instead throw it on the goal line or something like that.
Hey, that worked out well for me too, so I'm not going to
I'm
complain.
sorry, Seattle. That was just the first thing that popped into my head. I hope you get a team again. I
Oh
hope the
man.
Sonics do come
Yes.
back.
Yes.
But let me ask you this: so, in terms of, and I know we only have a few minutes here, but in terms of BRI, basketball related income, I mean, a new TV deal would mean a big spike potentially
Oh
to
yeah.
the salary cap. I mean, it could be a massive one. I would have to imagine after the way things went down that the NBPA would be more interested in cap smoothing with the sort of chaos that we saw the last time this came up years ago when we wound up with Luol Deng and Timofey Mozgov getting crazy deals. So
Trevor brought it
yeah, it
up,
was
not me. It was in the holster though. I was
it
ready.
was it was
I had
rough.
it ready to go.
It was tough. I had to kind of keep it down there. It was threw up in my mouth a little bit, but just projecting forward, we could be in for an interesting CBA negotiation with this wrapped into it, knowing that
Yep.
this deal is coming and what does it mean for the salary cap. And I mean, this could make an ultimately make a major impact on some big moves around the NBA, and how they proceed from here is going to be really important
Sure.
as far as the team building goes, because a new TV deal
Yeah.
will be a factor in NBA roster construction moving forward based on what it does to the salary cap.
Yeah, it might be one of those where, hey, we're really expensive for a year or two, but then after that, everything's going up and we're in a good place. Guys, go back, listen a couple episodes ago. We had Eric Pincus on. We dipped into some of this stuff about where things are going with the CBA. Big part of the CBA negotiations are going to be, all right, let's firm everything up. So whatever the TV money comes in, we know how that's going to split. And a guarantee expansion is going to be a topic of discussion through that. Because one thing with expansion, players get
Yep.
none of that money. So the reported $9-10 billion that two teams could fetch to join the league, if it gets that high, it'll probably be minimum, 8 billion for the two, coming in. None of that goes to the players. That only goes to the current owners of the team. So it gets split up because that's not part of it. Now, if the NBPA is like, hey, hold on. Now the NBA, I think, comes back with, hey, wait a minute, we're creating 34 new playing jobs for you. Like that. But it'll be a discussion point,
Sure.
right? It's going to be a major thing there. It's going to be, yeah. I mean, this is for people like me, and I'm so happy because I've not even kicking and screaming. I've just pulled you along, and you're into it now. This is awesome because this is really cool, fun stuff that we're seeing, and it only happens if the league is healthy and successful. And a big part of that comes out of the NBA and the NBPA have a good relationship, even with Michelle Roberts leaving and Tamika Tremaglio coming. They're doing great because they very much recognize the old business axiom of a half a watermelon is better than a whole grape.
Yep.
You got to be smart about this. There's no reason to mess this up. Just keep this train moving forward. We're all going to get paid, and let's keep going. So that is absolutely massive for this, and that's that's great news for basketball fans because going to get more, and probably with no stoppage either.
On the court, we say winning cures all in terms of relationships and all that within a locker room. Off the court, making money cures all,
Oh
and
yeah,
that's what the NBA
sure
is
does.
100%
Yeah.
doing.
Hey, one last thing because I kind of skipped over it. Cap smoothing, I predict will 100% be
Yeah.
a thing. The NBPA fought against it, rightly so, kind of last time, because I think they thought the NBA was trying to pull a shady one
Mhm.
on them and pull some sly business there. But I think they realize now nobody wants a repeat of, well, this one summer everybody
The
got all the
Warriors get
money,
Kevin
but then
Durant.
everybody
Yeah.
just tapped out. Yeah, yeah, and you ended up with Warriors getting Kevin Durant and stuff. So I do think you'll see them. They'll figure out a better plan going forward. I trust in that.
Agreed. Agreed. All right. Well, we're going to wrap things up there. Appreciate everybody for joining us. Make sure you do subscribe to the NBA Front Office YouTube channel. Ring that notification bell as well. And don't forget, follow us over on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever it is that you listen to podcasts. Have a great weekend, everybody. Till next time, stay safe and see ya.